Joining us now live from our New York studios is John Simon, film critic for the National Review and drama critic for New York Magazine. From our Chicago bureau, Gene Siskel, film critic for the Chicago Tribune and co-host of the syndicated television series At the Movies. And Roger Ebert, co-host of At the Movies and film critic for the Chicago Sun-Times. Mr. Simon, you described The Empire Strikes Back, the second in this trilogy, as malodorous offal, and I understand you're also well able to keep your enthusiasm in check for the third in the trilogy. Why so unkind?
Well, I think the raves for the early Star Wars have been so violent and so extravagant that I feel one cannot afford to mince one's words if one dislikes these things.
You certainly did not do that, but why do you feel they are so bad?
I feel they're so bad because they're completely dehumanizing. Obviously, let's face it, they are for children or for childish adults. They're not for adult mentalities, which unfortunately means that they're not for a lot of my fellow critics who also lack adult mentalities. But anyway, they are for children, and they're brutalizing children, they're stultifying children, they're making children dumber than they need to be. A great work for children, like Huck Finn, for example, tells a child something about reality, about people, about life, about growing up. These films try to keep children stupid children forever, and that, I think, is wrong.
Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert, if you would like to remove the dagger from between your ribs and strike back, have at it.
I totally disagree with Mr. Simon. I don't know what he did as a child, but I spent a lot of my Saturday matinees watching science fiction movies and serials and having a great time of being stimulated and having my imagination stimulated and having all sorts of visions take place in my mind that helped me to become an adult and to still say young at heart. And I would say not that I'm childlike, but that he is old at heart.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Simon ought to do what I did over the weekend. I went to a regular movie theater in a shopping center in Michigan City, Indiana, and I sat amid all the kids. There was one tall head and a lot of small heads.
Were they dumber than they needed to be?
No, they weren't dumber, to quote that interesting phrase. They were ecstatic. They were enjoying it, and they were rooting. They were asking each other who's who. They were getting all involved. They were rooting for the right guys and booing the bad guys. I thought it was a lot of fun. I feel badly, honestly, I feel badly that this other critic, John Simon, didn't have a good time at these pictures. That's too bad for him.
All right, while it would probably be more fun to have you sling mud at one another, all three of you, let's talk about the movie nevertheless. Mm-hmm. Is it a great film? I mean, it's clearly great technology, and it does wonderful things with special effects, but in terms of the normal standards by which we judge movies, is this a great film? John Simon, clearly you say no, but why?
Well, first of all, you know, special effects are like the tail of the dog, which should not wag the whole animal. When you have a film that's 90% special, and that's a kindly estimate, 90% special effects, you might just as well be watching a animated cartoon, because finally all those special effects begin to look totally unreal. You're looking for something that looks like flesh and blood there. You have three lousy actors in the main roles who don't contribute much flesh and blood. You have ghastly dialogue, terrible plotting, miserable characterization, which also do not contribute flesh and blood. So what you're left with is something that Walt Disney could have done just as well with a drawing board and pencils and colors.
All right, Roger Ebert, beyond the undeniable fact that it's clearly perceived as entertainment by a great many people, how would you argue that it's a great movie?
These are the sorts of movies that Disney people should be making, and the kinds of movies that Disney made 20, 30 years ago. I think all movies are special effects. Movies are not real. They're two-dimensional. A film goes through the camera, the projector throws the light on the screen, and that makes a special effect. It's a dream. It's an imagination. As to whether this film is good or not, it excited me. It made me laugh. It made me thrilled. And that's what a movie like this is for. I also enjoy films by Ingmar Bergman and people like that. I share that taste with Mr. Simon. But I think, in my own movie-going taste to be broad enough to also understand why a bunch of people might want to get together and see a Star Wars movie and enjoy it.
Gene Siskel, is it not possible to separate these two and to say, yes, there's such a thing as great entertainment, but it's not a great movie. Let's not pretend it is.
Well, you can say what its aspirations are. I don't think that a film should be rewarded for aiming low and hitting that mark, which sometimes in film criticism you do get that, the sort of junk movie as campy fun. I don't think this is campy fun. I think this is well-made fun. fun. This is very good of its kind, and I want to cite another film that's out now that shows you what this kind of film can be like if it's junk, and that's Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, shot in 3D. That movie is 3D and supposed to be kind of special. The Jedi film is in 2D, and it's a lot more exciting. Just seeing those pictures back to back as I did over the last week, one clearly is better of its kind. I think Jedi is very good of its kind. What do kids have these days for entertainment? They have the Black Stallion picture, which I know we both liked. I don't know if Mr. Simon did. And you have the Star Wars films, and that's about it, not much more. This is very good of its kind.
Mr. Simon, have you ever sunk as low as Space Hunter?
No, I'm happy to say I haven't. I think there are wonderful things that you could take kids to. There's a little film called Tender Mercies, which is not a children's movie, but in which a child is one of the main characters. And that is the sort of thing that I would take my children if I had them, where they can see something about human beings, about life. In this thing, you see one set of robots, some of them ostensibly flesh and blood, but actually just as mechanical as the real robots, attacking another set of robots. It zaps you, it races past you, projectiles are hurtling this way and that. There's nothing to get involved with. Sure, there is a very primitive sense in which the Empire is bad and a very primitive sense in which the others are good. But it is all such a chaos, such a jumble, such a confusion, such a mechanical, technological, whirly-gig that you don't have any chance to associate yourself with anyone, to identify yourself with anyone. There are no people there with whom you can sympathize.
That just isn't my experience in seeing it, again, with a whole bunch of kids. They were able to sort out who was who very easily. They had no trouble with this picture, understanding what was going on. I got to ask Mr. Simon a question. Here's sort of a test question. Wasn't your heart warmed even a little bit by Yoda?
I'll tell you what, we're in a bit of a tough technical situation here because Mr. Simon has just lost his earpiece. But if you can hear us again now,
I can
Mr.
hear
Simon,
you. Yes, I heard the question.
You were asked whether your heart wasn't warmed a little by Yoda.
Well, yes, I mean a little, but let's say if I saw him in a window of F.A.O. Schwartz and I looked at him for 3 seconds and said that's a kind of cute little figurine, I would have had enough of Yoda.
Listen, 3 seconds of acceptance on your part, Mr. Simon, is all that we can hope for and all that we have time for. I'm afraid at this point I thank you and Gene Siskel and also Roger.